Welcome back to the Creating One podcast. This podcast is dedicated to the fictional character Dr. Ethan Choi of Chicago Med. In canon of the show, Dr. Ethan Choi is a United States Navy Reserve Lieutenant Commander. But it was more than evident that something was occurring between he and ER nurse April Sexton. When Vicky steered the relationship towards Ethan meeting her parents, Ethan had come to realize that his developing feelings for April could not be ignored. He and Vicky broke up, and although there was always a potential of revisitation down the road, his heart remained steadfastly with April Sexton. I have to admit that I wasn't committed to the Chexton, which is the cute little name for Choi and Sexton, but I was deeply invested in the show. The writers, I felt, were very often careless in unnecessarily portraying April as this fickle and uncertain young woman in her commitment to Ethan. She was often turning out consistent opportunities where their relationship could grow, and she would always undermine it. And I always put that on the writing because April didn't write herself. So in season 5, as they were struggling with fertility issues, amidst Ethan deploying, she kissed Dr. Marcel. And this officially caused me to disembark from the Chexton fan group. I literally shredded my card. Yep, I went in pretty hard on the character on Twitter, and I don't have any regrets about doing so. Because this was more or less my reactions, and they were not meant to disparage the performances, but to call out the writers for making April torch her relationship with Ethan, with a colleague. No other character on the show in the history of Chi-Med was involved in such an event. And I didn't think it would do the character any favors. April was a main anchor of the show. She was a part of the backdoor pilot. She was the friend to Kelly Severide, who was from Chicago Fire. Now that's the backbone in which they built Chicago Med. And it basically did her no favors, creating tension, unnecessary tension between two very brilliant doctors. So as I said, as I mentioned, I shredded my Chexton card, but I remained Team Ethan. As the show moved the characters in and out of the cast, along with, some scarce scenes by Ethan in season 7, I had to, examine my commitment to the show. I felt something was going on. Brian T had, returned midway of season 7, and then he departed suddenly again. And, Ethan re-injured himself subsequent to the GSW he suffered from, a deranged patient at the end of season 5 finale. By the beginning of season 8, it was, news was starting to circulate that Brian T was going to be exiting the show. And I was distraught. So even though I was very leery on continuing, I remained with the show because I wanted to commit myself to supporting the exit storyline for Brian T, who I deserved a great send-off. He was a phenomenal actor and a great character in the show's canon. And that I believe he was truly given. So Yaya DaCosta returned, who Yaya DaCosta is April Sexton on the show. So she returns as a guest in season 8. And after she was being written out at the end of season 6, we see that April was accepting a scholarship to study as a nurse practitioner. That was not even mentioned when she came back in season 8. It was about her working out in the field and doing some other things. But at any rate, Yaya's show, Our Kind of People, was canceled, and I pretty much kind of was concerned when she left the show. I felt even though the show could be standing on some pretty decent legs, I didn't really have any faith that it would carry her through. Not like the stability of working with the Wolf shows. So, as I stated, her show was canceled, and this essentially basically freed her up, I think, to come and guest star and appear on Chicago Med. I had no idea that she was going to become a part of Ethan's exit storyline. So the two marry before a beautiful church filled with family and friends, and they are ushered away in this mobile medic station they have decided to establish in order to treat patients in the field to prevent inundating ER rooms. And again, though I never really committed to the pair of Chexton, not really. On and off again I was, as much as they were on and off again with each other. My support for the two actors is unwavering, and I wish them both nothing but the best as they, move into their next chapters and on to their respective careers. I've heard that it's a good possibility that Yaya could be returning, at least as a guest actress. And I've also heard that Brian T will be doing some directing behind the scenes. So again, they were a beautiful pair. There were so many more opportunities that I wished they could have experienced with each other. But we got some good mileage on those tires, and so for that I am very grateful. I'm almost resentful and chastising myself for not being truly committed to all of their efforts throughout the years, the different storylines. But I just think that I could accept just about everything that came out of April, but when she kissed Dr. Marcel, I was done, because I felt that there was no real support in the storyline for her to do that, and it just wasn't enough that because Ethan was gone. I mean, she never represented a character or a person who was struggling with herself. Very independent, very responsible. It just didn't bode well for the canon of her character, and I do blame the show for that. And I'm just letting them know that although my Detroit homegirl Esapatha Murkison remains as Sharon Goodwin, and we have Will Halstead remains, they are the two last of the original, the OGs. And if one or two of them departs from the show, we will have no remnants of the beginning. But as we continue to go forward and watch and fall in love with more characters of the show, I can promise you that there will be no one who will ever impact me the way Dr. Ethan Choi did. I mean, I waited for him to become, the ER resident, to step into the role as a leader, because that's what he always exuberated as a character. But there is a difference between Ethan Choi, and of course there is a difference between Yaya DaCosta and all that she is and all that she will be. So I look forward to seeing them in their future works, and we'll leave you with this slideshow, this beautiful slideshow of their wedding. And I will see you guys on the next one.